Forget scrambled, poached, or that sad hard-boiled egg in your lunchbox. Today we're cracking open something far weirder, the century egg. Also called the 100-year egg, 1,000-year egg, or if you're feeling dramatic, the egg of death. Spoiler alert, it won't kill you, though it does look like it crawled out of a witch's cauldron. But here's the twist. It's actually a brilliant ancient Chinese preservation hack that turned into a cultural delicacy. So maybe hide your omelet and let's dive into how did the ancient Chinese perfect egg preservation with century eggs, right here on History of Food. If you've never seen a century egg, picture a regular egg that decided to go through a Goth phase. The shell looks like it was dug up from an archaeological site. The white transforms into a translucent brown-black jelly, and the yolk, it goes full green-gray, creamy in texture but questionable in color. Western travelers once described them as rotten or spoiled. But here's the plot twist. They're not rotten at all. Instead, they're a carefully preserved delicacy. Perfectly edible, surprisingly complex, and downright delicious if you're into bold flavors. So how does a humble duck egg become this alien-looking snack? The secret lies in an ancient Chinese preservation method that's equal parts science experiment, culinary accident, and pure genius. Legend has it that century eggs were discovered during the Ming Dynasty, about 600 years ago, when a farmer found duck eggs left in a pool of slaked lime near his home. That accident gave rise to one of history's most unique preservation methods, turning a simple survival trick into a delicacy cherished across China. Now, I know what you're thinking. Do you really have to bury eggs in mud for 100 years? The answer is no. Despite the dramatic nickname, they don't take centuries. They don't even take a year. Traditionally, it takes about a few weeks to a few months to make a proper century egg. The process is like a science experiment meets a spa treatment for eggs. Traditionally, you'd coat duck eggs, sometimes chicken or quail, but duck is the classic, in a mixture of clay, ash, salt, quicklime, and rice hulls. This coating hardens into a protective shell, keeping bacteria out while the magic happens inside. Instead of rotting, the alkaline mixture works by breaking down proteins and fats in the egg, changing their structure. The whites become firm and jelly-like because the proteins coagulate, while the yolks turn creamy as the fats transform into a buttery texture. It's not fermentation, but a chemical reaction that preserves the egg and gives it that bold, savory flavor. In modern methods, century eggs are preserved with alkaline chemicals like sodium carbonate and calcium hydroxide, which raise the pH and transform the egg. The white turns into a translucent amber jelly, firm yet springy, while the yolk becomes creamy, almost cheese-like, with a rich, pungent flavor. The taste is earthy, salty, and slightly sulfuric, often compared to strong cheese. Intense at first, but rewarding once you get used to it. Back in ancient China, there were no refrigerators, no Best Buy dates, and definitely no Tupperware. Preservation wasn't optional, it was survival. Just as Europeans cured meats or fermented cabbage into sauerkraut, the Chinese found ways to transform fragile foods into long-lasting staples. Century eggs began as a clever survival hack, but over time, they became a delicacy, valued not just for their shelf life, but for the unique taste people grew to love. Offer someone a century egg for the first time, and you'll usually get one of two reactions: absolute horror or pleasant surprise. The texture is silky, the flavor bold, but like blue cheese, stinky tofu, or durian, the stinkiest foods are often the most beloved. Century eggs fall into that category, intense, acquired, but deeply satisfying once you learn to appreciate them. You don't usually peel a century egg and eat it whole, though some hardcore fans do. More often, it's sliced and paired with other flavors. Classic combos include pickled ginger, which cuts through the richness, congee, where the egg melts into warm rice porridge, and soft tofu topped with chopped egg, soy sauce, and scallions. In many Chinese households, century eggs aren't just food. They're a beloved snack, side dish, or even a special treat. Let's talk culture shock. When century eggs first hit Western media, the reactions were dramatic. They were branded gross, weird, even crowned the world's most disgusting food. Shows like Fear Factor and Bizarre Foods loved putting them on screen because honestly, their dark, glassy look alone was enough to make audiences squirm. But here's the twist. What's gross usually just means unfamiliar. The same people gagging at century eggs often munch on blue cheese, fermented fish, or moldy salami without hesitation. It's all perspective. And slowly the tide has turned. More adventurous eaters are realizing century eggs aren't a gimmick but a traditional dish with deep history, cultural pride, and a fan base that's been loyal for centuries. Beyond taste, century eggs carry symbolism. In Chinese culture, preserved foods represent ingenuity, resourcefulness, and the ability to endure. Eating century eggs isn't just about enjoying flavor. It's about appreciating a legacy of culinary survival and transformation. Let's be real. If century eggs come up at a party, you'll instantly be the most interesting person in the room if you know these. They're not actually 100 years old, just 2-3 months. Those pine tree patterns on the white aren't cracks, but crystal formations from the alkaline solution. Duck eggs are the gold standard, with richer yolks than chicken eggs. And as for the first brave soul who cracked one open and thought, "Yeah, I'll eat that," legends, truly. So the next time someone dares you to eat a century egg, remember, you're not just biting into a funky-looking snack, you're tasting history. Sure, it looks unusual and smells a little funky, but get past the shock factor and you'll see it's human creativity at its finest, turning the ordinary into the extraordinary. Thank you for watching.